big day for Nvidia yesterday with multiple announcemements, new products and partnerships and more at its GTC conference. Joining us now to discuss all things Nvidia is Nick Patience, Vice President and AI Practice, the Future Group. Nick, it's good to see you this morning. All right, I want to hear from you what your takeaways from what stood out to you the most from this conference, because it feels like in terms of the investor reaction, it seemed like I don't want to call it a flop, but there wasn't much to move the needle, I think, to what we know about. But what did you like, for instance?
Yeah, morning, Diane. Thanks for having me. Yeah, you're right. There was a slightly underwhelming reaction, but I think the series of announcements were well in line with the usual Nvidia playbook. That may be part of the issue, that people are becoming quite accustomed to what Jensen Huang announces. But yeah, with the new Blackwell Ultra chips, it's the obvious evolution of that family. And he also flagged up the roadmap as he always does, because obviously Nvidia has a load of OEM partners who need to know what Nvidia is planning. And so he talked a bit more about the Rubin family and then the upcoming Feynman family. That's obviously going out quite a long way. But I also thought some of the software announcements were very important, and they kind of point to another defensible moat that I think Nvidia is building.
Which software announcements did you think were the most important?
They announced this thing called Dynamo, which is kind of a software stack for inference that other companies can adopt. And the important thing there was that inference is becoming a much bigger market than the training market that kind of made Nvidia's name really in the stock market. So this is where you use AI to make predictions and make decisions, and now increasingly to take actions. And so that reasoning at the inference stage is really important. And I think last year they announced this thing called NIMs, where they're kind of packaging up microservices, and now they're building on top of that with Dynamo.
I do think that was interesting when he talked about solving the evolution of AI. It's been around for years, but then going from, a learning model to, as you talk about, the inference model, and then him saying in terms of the roadmap, next we'll see more robotics AI. And, in terms of some of the notes I saw, the learning problem that AI is meant to solve, and the idea being that we want AI to learn at superhuman rates, and then how do you scale all of this? So how do you see the role of NVIDIA in meeting just the evolving needs of inference and reasoning heavy AI workloads?
Well, I think they're in a really interesting position because obviously, as the primary provider of high-end GPUs, and I think they've got a pretty good runway in that market as being the dominant provider. They are the go-to company for that. And then if you build this, add this software stack on top of it. As we moved, as Jensen was saying yesterday, we moved from generative AI, and let's remember that was only November 2022 when ChatGPT came out. This thing moves so quickly. Right. If we move from that to agentic AI, that puts a lot more pressure on AI infrastructure. There's a lot more chip cycles it eats up as it does reasoning, rather than typing in a simple text prompt to ChatGPT and getting a text answer back. As this thing is reasoning and doing deep research and then making decisions based on that and producing content and then taking action. So this idea that agents can actually, software agents can take action and perform tasks. That is a lot more compute intensive. And guess who's going to provide the compute for that? It's going to be Nvidia, and it's going to be Nvidia for a while yet.
How long do you think its dominance will hold? I mean, it talked about demand for Hopper was from 1.3 million at its peak, 3.6 million for Blackwell. So it's been a clear leader. How long do you think it will hold its pole position, especially when you think about the hyperscalers developing their own chips?
Sure, I think Nvidia, that is, have got 18 to 24 months at least in a very similar position. And when you think about the hyperscalers, what have they got and who are they selling it to? Well, they obviously are developing and have developed their own silicon, but that is primarily being sold to digital natives, back to the tech industry itself. This is yet to cut through to banking or healthcare or manufacturing or something like that, because obviously they don't physically ship the chips; they rent the access to them. And the companies using that access are, a lot of them are the AI model makers and other tech firms.
And then when you speak about other tech firms, we know they have a strong relationship with, say, Microsoft, Amazon, et cetera. Do you think their continued growth story hinges on the expansion, you mentioned other sectors like healthcare and beyond?
Yeah, I do think it does. I mean, Nvidia hasn't got a lot of vertical industry focus. Healthcare is one of them, and obviously transportation is another one. And with self-driving vehicles. But I think they do rely on partners to get them into these other markets, and I think that will continue. There could be. I mean, I've certainly been here at GTC and heard the executives here asked, are you going to verticalize this? Are you going to verticalize that? And they're not really committing to doing that. And I think that is, they know these couple of other markets very well, and I think they're going to rely on partners for a while yet before they branch out into these other vertical industries.
Who do you see as being the closest to playing catch up to Nvidia?
Well, obviously, as you said earlier, the hyperscalers in the kind of the mind of observers are going to be seen as main competitors. But obviously, AMD has GPUs. Intel is obviously going through its own issues that are well documented. So in the short term, as a pure chip company, it's AMD. In the broader sense, it is the hyperscalers, because they are offering both the silicon, even if it's just for rent, as it were, but also the software layers that I was talking about earlier. They are playing in that area. Some of them, like Google, obviously in some ways invented generative AI. These companies have a lot of expertise, and also much larger companies. Nvidia is quite a small company in terms of the number of employees, and so they have a lot more resources to throw at these problems. So I'd say that the hyperscalers overall, and then AMD particularly from a chip perspective.
Yeah, but AMD was expected to be a closer number too. So far, that hasn't been the case from the pure play perspective. All right, Nick, we'll have to leave our conversation there for today. Thank you so much for your insight on the latest from NVIDIA and some of the announcement they made at the GTC conference. That's Nick Patience, the Futurum Group.